Russell's performance, does that mean that the Lakers' pursuit of Kyrie Irving is now at another level?
The Kyrie thing with the Lakers it's kind of up to Kyrie, because I don't think they're going to be able to get to unless the Dallas Mavericks help Kyrie out. I don't think they're going to be able to get to the max number. And so if Kyrie Irving is willing to come for less than the max, which would enable the Lakers to keep Austin Reeves as well, I think it's something that they have to consider. Now, there's a whole bunch of caveats, especially when you look at how many games Kyrie misses, how many games Anthony Davis misses, and the health of LeBron over the last few years. Like, you're setting yourself up for that. But the Lakers are in for a penny, in for a pound here. They're deeply invested in this LeBron-Anthony Davis partnership. And if they went that route, they would still keep that door open. I am very loath to trust Kyrie as a guy on my team that I would give multiple years to, but I would have a hard time presenting a case of why you should pay D'Angelo Russell over trying to go to at least consider Kyrie Irving.
Wendy, I know that you just said you're down in Miami. I have to ask you this. Out of all your time in basketball, have you ever seen a team as talented as the Boston Celtics just roll over and quit the way they did last night? You ever seen that before?
I don't think they quit. I think they got. At the end though, they didn't play the fourth quarter, which I don't have a problem with it really. They were not prepared for the moment, and they got beat by a team that is just playing a lot better. But
Wendy, how are you not prepared for that moment?
Like, well, that's a fair point. Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at this team compared to a year ago, because it's essentially the same team. There's slight differences, but it's essentially the same team. Last year, this team defended every single night. And in the postseason, even when they had nights where they had some issues, because they have some characteristics that make them susceptible to bad losses, they don't as a team focus very well. We've seen that for 2 years now. Some of these series that they've taken to 6 and 7 games with their talent level had no business getting to 6 or 7 games. Example this year, that series against the Hawks, with all due respect to Trae Young, no business getting to 6 games. Last year, the way they let some of those series go, they have focus issues, but they always defended. And that always gave them a chance. And one of the reasons why they are so good in elimination games is because when they've had to tighten down defensively, they had. But their defense in this postseason is limp. You know, when you watch them play defense, they allow the other team to kind of dictate the terms. They don't. I don't want to get into too much of X and O's, but they allow soft switches. They allow things to be imposed on them. They've lost that defensive edge completely. And that defensive edge was their margin for error last year. And when you play a team like Miami, which is a team that does the exact opposite, because it's not that talented, it has to play hard. When you have a team that is super locked in versus a team that's sort of laissez-faire, the ground is fertile for a situation like that to happen. And that is partially on Joe Mazzulla. When you look at the difference between the way the Celtics play last year and the way this year, defensively there is no comparison.
So when you talk about Joe Mazzulla, Wendy, is there any scenario that, we don't like to terminate coaches, but is there any scenario where with all these coaches that's out there looking for opportunities that Joe may not come back next year?
A couple of days ago, Key, I just said no, because to be around the Celtics, you have to understand how much Brad Stevens and the other members of this organization respect Joe Mazzulla. He is really well liked. They believe in his future. They believe in his process. But when you lose a game like that, when you lose a series like this, it's just dangerous. It's dangerous to your organization because it creates a tension to demand action. It is human nature that no matter how much you support a person and believe in somebody, that when you see this happen, the team is frankly just too expensive, and there's too much on the line to not test the trust there. And so, again, if you'd asked me 3 days ago, I'd have said no, he'll be back. Now I can't. I don't feel that way. I think that they are going to be in a little bit of a retrospective period here, because that's what a loss like that forces. But the thing is, they've had 3 coaches in 3 years. That you'd be talking about a 4th coach in 4 years. I mean, that is not the recipe for success. I mean, they've boxed themselves in a little bit with the way their coaching situation has happened recently.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider, host of Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective podcast, joining us here on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Wendy, I mean, you're absolutely right. It is dangerous territory with Missoula, and it does make you wonder where this team would be if Ime Udoka was still their head coach. But Jaylen Brown gets an all-NBA team, makes second team. He's open for that $295 million contract. What are your thoughts around, I've heard multiple players talk about this, former players and analysts, about the fact that a lot of these duos right now and how compatible they are, right? If that's, the likes of Jamal Murray and Jokic, or LeBron and AD, or you got, James Harden, Joel Embiid, and then, schematically how difficult it is for how to get action with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown together. Are we talking about a scenario in which we're going to have $600 million wrapped up between these 2 players for the Celtics organization moving forward?
Jay, this is what I mean by a loss like this being dangerous. Because you wake up on a day like today and you start wondering, man, can you pay these 2 guys $110 million a year? Because they've both now qualified for the Supermax. And it's not that Jaylen Brown isn't a player that because you don't want to have. I mean, again, 2 days ago, I'd have told you that he's 26 years old. He plays at both ends of the court. And if you don't sign him this summer, you're going to have a hard time keeping him. You do the deal and you figure it out later if it doesn't work. And I still would guess that the Celtics will go down that path. But if what you're saying is something you have to come to terms to, which is that maybe they are a very good pairing, but not a great pairing, do you examine whether you need to alter that before you invest the $600 million? And like I said, I'm not there yet, and I'm sure they're not there yet either. But when you have a season end like this, it just forces you to open up all opportunities. And the bottom line is when Jaylen and Jason Tatum play, and they're at their highest level, they're awesome. But they have some weaknesses that tend to undercut their ability to get it done. And Jason Tatum is 8 days removed from a 51-point Game 7. Jaylen Brown was probably their best player in that last series. There's a lot that they bring to the table, but we've also now watched year after year them not be able to deliver when it absolutely matters, and they have not maximized their pairing. And so I would keep them together, but I can see why the Celtics would investigate options just for nothing else to satisfy the feeling that this loss is going to create.
Brian Windhorst, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Windhorst, ladies and gentlemen. Hosts of Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective podcast, and, of course, ESPN NBA insider extraordinaire. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Have a good day, guys.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right, bud.
Hey, guys, can Daniel Jones live up to his contract? Is it that big a contract, really? Can Geno Smith do it again?